Hey, I'm Ben Silverio.
I'm Aaron Klein.
And I'm Ansel Birch, your host in post.
And it's
time to party! We are not doctors, we don't give medical advice. Please drink responsibly. This episode was recorded on April 3rd, 2021.
We got this. It's a science.
Yeah. If you're wondering why we're air banjoing instead of air guitaring, it's because we're talking about Back to the Future Part 3.
Listen to either of the episodes before this, you know we really like this movie. It's really good. It's a very good movie. And in this episode, our edutainment episode, where we take a shallow dive down a lazy river of edutainment.
Yes.
Don't expect a deep dive. You can tell by the length of the episode, that's not what's going to be happening.
Absolutely. I mean, join us on this floaty ride down the time stream.
Oh, God.
I can't believe I didn't make that joke sooner in the season.
I can't believe it. Honestly, same. I would say I'm impressed at your restraint, but I know it's that you didn't think of it until now, so I don't know that I actually can say that.
Me two things.
Man, I mean, like,
yeah.
It could be both.
Both true.
But I mean, here we are at this last episode of our Back to the Future Part 3 run, but it's also our last episode of the season.
It is our last episode of the season. Man, it has been a wild ride through time.
That'll be funnier once we get into the edutainment properly. Also, speaking of wild rides.
Yes, absolutely. It's, a great segue. As over a whole season, we've gotten great. We're terrible at segues. It's okay. We understand.
They're hard to ride. What can we say? And
exactly. Ben, what will you be talking about in this, our final edutainment of season 1 of Time to Party?
Well, Aaron, as we've talked about multiple times already through these episodes on Back to the Future, we love this movie, and I don't think it's surprising that for edutainment I would pick something that would allow us to enter the world of Back to the Future. That's why I will be talking about the Universal Studios ride, Back to the Future, The Ride.
Yay! R.I.P.
It's so fun.
It was so fun. I loved it. I went to Universal a couple times as a kid and just absolutely adored this ride. It was so much fun.
Yes, the immersive environment that was the Time Institute, the Institute of Future Technology is what it's properly known as. Doc Brown, in story, founded this institute in 1991 in the present day in order to work on his futuristic inventions after the events of Back to the Future Part 3. So, I don't know if Clara and Jules and Vern were just like, Emmett, the stuff is all over the house. Like, you need somewhere to do this.
Dad, come on. Come on. Claire's like, I'm a simple woman, and I don't ask a lot, but you gotta take this shit to the garage.
Garage before.
And speaking of the garage, speaking of his garage, like, how is it that he managed to sell all of his property to Burger King and just kept the garage in that parking lot? Like,
listen, that's what happens when you have land that your family has owned for a really long time and you don't want to sell it, and they're like, here's what we'll do, we'll give you a lot of money to sell as part of it. That's the real answer.
Right.
Uh-huh.
Oh, topical.
When people come to the country through like Nazi relocation programs and they get a bunch of free land. Anyway.
Back to the Future, The Ride, first opened in Universal Studios Florida in May of 1991. Initially, the Universal Studios Hollywood version was supposed to open at the same time, but there were some issues with the land and the way that the ride was laid out. because in one version, you had the theaters for the experience like next to each other, but since the layout of Hollywood didn't allow for that, they had to do them back to back, and they would split off into separate theaters from the ride queue. So that means that the Hollywood version ended up opening a little bit later, in June 12th, on June 12th, 1993. So the story of this ride is that Biff Tannen steals a DeLorean from the Institute and goes gallivanting around through time into the Cretaceous period.
Yes, he did mean the Cretaceous period. If you add us, be fun about it. Don't be a dick.
Where we come in contact with a dinosaur, and the object is to bump his DeLorean with our DeLorean, which seats 8 people, to send him back to the present. When you start looking too deep into the story, sure, it doesn't really make sense, but it's still a lot of fun.
That's okay. It's a ride.
Yeah.
Rides don't have to be super complicated or steeped in lore. That's fine. I'll accept it.
Exactly. Oh, right. I forgot to mention, Back to the Future, the ride, also existed at Universal Studios Japan. It opened there in March of 2001.
Oh, wow.
Yes. And that was the last one standing. Out of all of them, it stuck around the longest. Well, I mean, its run at the park wasn't that long, but it was the last one remaining after... I'm getting ahead of myself, but after The Simpsons took over. But I'll get there. So, this ride was developed out of a conversation between friends Steven Spielberg and George Lucas. Spielberg was talking to Lucas because Lucas was about to launch Star Tours at Disneyland. And he said to Spielberg, yeah, Universal could never do something like that. They would never do a Star Tours. So Spielberg was like, oh, really? So they started developing...
That's hilarious.
Right?
Can't
so they started...
well enough alone, boys.
Yeah, for real.
These two dummies. But yeah, so we have Star Wars and Star Tours to thank for Back to the Future, the ride. Initially, the concept for the Back to the Future ride was a roller coaster to go through the story, but then they realized that it would be moving too fast to really register what was going on. So that's when the concept of the simulation really took off.
Because that's how the Aerosmith ride works. Like because it's a roller coaster, you get like the whole story before and after the actual ride, because there's like almost no way to really register when you're moving that quickly.
Right. So a lot of those work where they you get like 3 hours in the queuing area to enjoy all of the story and
yeah,
props and crap.
It's true.
Yeah, totally.
Oh man, speaking of the queue for Back to the Future, the ride, it was so immersive and ahead of its time. It was really a precursor to immersive queue experiences that we ended up getting in, say, the Indiana Jones Adventure or the Guardians of the Galaxy Mission Breakout, with these really involved queues. And there are, in all the incarnations of the ride, in Japan and Hollywood and in Florida, there were various props all over that queue. But one of the things that made me want to talk about it is because the train from Back to the Future Part 3 was on display outside of the Florida one for a long time.
Really?
So you can see the actual...
I didn't know that was the real train.
Yeah.
I've definitely seen that and did not know.
Yep.
Cool.
That train and one of the DeLoreans that they used was at Florida. Unfortunately, no idea where that train is now. Because after the ride closed, they took it out.
It's 100% scrap. There's no way it's not. If they don't know where it is, it's not around anymore. It's in pieces.
Yeah, I mean, there's a small possibility that it's in a warehouse somewhere, but like,
yeah, waiting to be part of
knows?
a museum exhibit or something. Yeah.
Yeah,
It belongs in a museum. Just like that that DeLorean that they restored in that documentary Back in Time, I believe. They wanted to revive one of the original screen used DeLoreans. If I'm not mistaken, it might have even been the DeLorean that was outside of Back to the Future, the ride, that they restored and tracked down. I'll have to look more into that. Don't quote me, or I'll just watch the movie again because it's fucking everywhere. That documentary is on like Hulu, on Prime. It came with the Blu-ray and DVD sets. It's fucking everywhere. You should watch it. It's great. But yeah, so Back to the Future, the ride included some really...
Out of Time. It's called Out of Time because, of course,
Out of Time. There it is.
That makes sense.
Back to the Future, the ride included some really interesting technology for a ride, because I need to preface this by telling you that I got this information directly from Thomas F. Wilson. When Aaron and I first did a podcast together about Back to the Future, I played a clip from my interview from Wizard World Chicago with Tom Wilson, because he and I were talking about the Back to the Future ride and how much we love it. And one of the things that he loves about it is the technological details that went into filming this footage. So the footage was meant to be projected on a dome, an IMAX dome, right?
Cool.
Because that's how it's presented in the ride theater. But back then they didn't really have the IMAX cameras that they have now. So in the model of Hill Valley that they built to shoot all of this stuff in, everything had to be curved. They had to meticulously think of the equations to make it curved so that it looks like a straight line.
Ooh.
It's bananas.
That's wild.
I
That's
know.
Really cool.
Yeah. The director, Douglas Trumbull, had to make sure that all of this stuff would appear right once it was projected. So the fact that they had to do all of this stuff was just mind-blowing.
Wow.
And another fun fact about the script, it was written by Bob Gale, of course, but with Peyton Reed, who would go on to direct Ant-Man and Bring It On. So having his involvement in this was really interesting, I thought. So naturally, this ride was loved by many, many, many people. Beyond Aaron and I, just fucking love this ride. So great. However, in Florida, it closed on March 30th, 2007. In Hollywood, it closed on September 3rd, 2007. And in Japan, it closed on May 31st, 2016. In America, it was replaced by the Simpsons ride, which has an homage to the original ride that was there before them, because you can see Krusty the Clown buying the land and Doc Brown handing him the deed as they're demolishing the Institute.
That's nice. I'm glad
Professor
they included that. I've never been on the Simpsons ride. I just, on principle, I'm like, nah, fuck that. I'm not riding it.
I needed to know what they thought would be a suitable replacement for Back to the Future, so I had to ride it. And it did not live up to the high bar set by Back to the Future,
No.
How could it?
Yeah, exactly. And then in Japan, it was replaced by Despicable Me Minion Mayhem. So, I know, it's a shame. But a little piece. I mean, I'm sure there are a ton of little pieces that will remain from Back to the Future, but the last time I was in Universal Studios Florida, I went to Back to the Future the ride, the former location of Back to the Future the ride, and I saw one of those face characters of Doc Brown, and I got a picture with him and stuff, and one of the things I said to him was like, "Hey Doc, I miss the Institute, but I also miss your fried chicken." Because there was a fried chicken stand that was branded Doc Brown's Fried Chicken near the ride. And the chicken was really good. So I told him that I missed it. And he's just like, well, I passed on the recipe to Cletus, who owns the restaurant now, if you still want some of that chicken.
I mean, that
and
makes
I'm
sense.
like, great! So
That's nice. I bet that character actor hears that all the time, too.
100%.
That's why they're like, I'm ready with this fact that it's the same.
Yeah. But, like, that's another part that I love about theme park workers, I guess. If they're immersed in the experience, then the guests are immersed in the experience, and it makes it better for everybody.
Yeah.
In the same trip, I went to the Wizarding World of Harry Potter. I think that was the first time I went to the Wizarding World. And I asked one of the workers at one of the shops in Hogsmeade, I was like, hey, do you have any Slytherin merchandise? And they said, oh, you can find all the Dark Wizard and the Dark Art stuff over there. And I'm just like, excuse me, not all Slytherins are evil. Thank you.
I'm sure that cast member was like, get out of here.
Oh, yeah. But, like, that's the type of cast member that doesn't need to be working there.
Yeah.
Like, that's part of, like, what makes these experiences so good.
I'm surprised that flew at Wizarding World.
I know, right? But, oh well. One last thing about Back to the Future the ride. When they debuted the ride, there was a promotional raffle where the winner would win a DeLorean. The two contestants that won decided to take the prize money instead of the car. And I'm like,
used to shit on DeLoreans. Like, it was, like, known as a bad car. That's part of the reason they picked it to use it in the movie, is because they were like, okay, well, we want something that's, like, visually very striking, but that when it rolls up, it's like a joke that you would build a time machine into it.
It's a junker, yeah.
It's wild that, like, I don't think people would feel that way even just about the design of it now, just because it was just weird looking. But, like, now it's, like, an acceptable weird looking, like a cool weird looking.
Sure, but
also,
this
Wii
was
because of this
really
movie.
Popular. Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Wing
But also
doors are
these
cool
were
because of Back to the
because
Future.
of this movie. Yeah, that's
Totally.
true. But the DeLoreans that were being given away were made to look like the time machine. So, like, why would you
want that.
pass up on that?
Although, maybe to their credit, it sort of depends on where you live. Because if you live in an area where it might get vandalized because it's like a novelty car, like, I can understand being like, all right, well, it's worth it to me to just have this money as opposed to having to continue to pay money to get this car repaired. Like,
That's
that
fair.
I can understand.
Not having a garage,
Yeah, exactly. Like, if you're gonna park your car out on the street, I wouldn't want that. But, like, yeah, with a garage, like, in a Midwestern city somewhere, I feel like it would be easier to accept a prize like that, maybe. Unless you're in a Midwestern city that would, like, talk a bunch of shit about you also. Maybe they were from Iowa and they were like, oh, no, we can't bring that back. That's all anyone will talk to us about forever.
Yeah.
Oh, you're the guy with the DeLorean. Yes.
Yeah, I am. I have other hobbies, Bob.
Bob, I'm your accountant also.
Right. Also, we have some problems with your receipts.
They don't make Death Star cars, so this is what I got.
Yeah.
Maybe you should be more focused about your records.
Speaking of Star Wars, without Star Wars, there would be no Back to the Future the ride. But without Back to the Future the ride, I don't think we would have gotten the Millennium Falcon Smuggler's Run that is now extremely popular at Batuu. So,
I've heard that it's really
symbiotic.
fun. I haven't been.
I haven't been, but it looks so good.
I haven't been either, but I did watch a video.
When they were doing construction on that site, I was there, so I got to, like, peek over the fence and be like, it's all the Star Wars stuff, but I didn't actually get to do any of it.
So
Yeah.
while we're talking about junk that's near the rides, are you guys aware that the X-Wing that's in Batuu in California is a screen-used X-Wing now?
Is it?
I did not know that.
So I guess when they were shooting for Mandalorian, the X-Wing prop like in the wrong place or not done or something, and so they shot all of the X-Wing cockpits in that X-Wing just because it was ready. It was there.
Wait, so
That's cool.
Appa from Kim's Convenience that's Appa's X-Wing?
Uh-huh.
Oh my god, that makes me so happy.
That's cool.
So they like took the one from the theme park that was like ready to go out, and they like took out the insides and put it on a gimbal. And yeah,
that's cool.
That's
really cool.
It's that X-Wing.
That also speaks to the level of detail that they put into the stuff that is displayed out front.
Oh yeah,
Yep.
Like they know that people are looking for that kind of detail in it, and like, why not have a screen ready prop that you can like multi-purpose use? Like that's just smart business.
Disney don't play, yeah.
Disney don't play. They're like, we'll spend $1 billion, but we better get $8 billion back for our investment.
Right.
Like, you know what? You will. You're right.
Can I buy a lightsaber next to it? Then yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, look at all the props that they have just sitting in the collector's collection at the former Tower of Terror. Like there are so many like props and stuff just in that warehouse from Disney parks, from apparently one of the props is like the old Yeti from the Matterhorn.
Oh, from the Matterhorn?
Oh.
Yeah.
That's cool.
I watched another video recently about like hidden secrets in these rides.
All right.
Disney's cool.
Yesterworld and frickin' Defunct Land was just my jam for the past couple months.
Yeah, Defunct Land rules.
So, Aaron, what's your edutainment today?
Mine is uncharacteristically short. I did not do a ton. We kind of like switch places for the last episode of season 1. I did this one because there was a moment where something happened and I was like, that's impossible, and I want to explain why. So at the very end of the movie, when Clara is chasing after the train and going after Marty and Doc, she starts the ride with her hair up and her hat flies off, and then the next time you see her, her hair is down and long and flowing behind her, and that's impossible. It is absolutely impossible for that to have happened. There is no way she took her hair down while she was cantering on a horse. Absolutely impossible. So I'm going to talk a little bit about women's hairstyles and why they were done that way and when they stopped being done that way. So it's not a super involved edutainment this week for me, but it just bothered me so much. I was like, there is no way. As a person who has had to put their hair up into an updo on multiple occasions and had to wear wigs that have been done up in updos, like, it is not easy to take that. There are dozens of pins in your hair in order to get it to stay like that. So at the time that this is set, 1885, women just let their hair grow. Like, you basically never cut it, because the idea was that it was supposed to reflect that you were healthy and vital and you had like good internal fluids or whatever weird bullshit Victorians believed in at the time.
Good at babying.
Right, exactly. Like, oh, you can make a good baby in that womb. I can tell by the sheen of your hair. Like, that's not how any of this works. I mean, sort of. It means they probably have, like, vitamins and shit. So in that sense, it is, like, an indicator of, like, luxury and wealth that you can have, like, well cared for, long brushed hair. And so the idea is that, like, basically any woman of any kind of means grew her hair out as long as possible, and then you would do it up into what's called a plait, where you like do a long braid and then you like wrap it around, you like stick a bunch of pins in it, and then alternately to that you can do like curls and wraps where you like curl the long hair and then like pull it up and under and into like an updo. But you spend your morning doing that. Those dos don't happen super quickly, even when you're like trained in how to do them. Like, they're involved and they take time because you have a lot of hair. Like, also hair is heavy and hair is like gross in lots of ways, especially if you're like, I don't know, living in the Old West. Your hair's probably not in super great condition. So wearing it up like this is also a protective way to wear your hair. And so the idea that she would be chasing after this man on a horse and be like, whoa, time to rip all these pins out of my hair. I was just like, I can't. This is my moment. This is the moment for me where I've broken the fourth wall and I just cannot deal with the fact that there's no way this woman would be able to do this. So I started thinking about, all right, well, this is the Victorian era of doing hair. It's been like this basically since like the French Revolution, when people just wore wig caps and giant ass wigs on their heads, which was also cool, but also like not great for your hair. So I wanted to know, I kind of had an idea, but I wanted to know for sure, like, when did this end? So Victorian hairstyles went until like 1902, 1903, and then they finally started to like move away from really involved updos. They started to become a little looser. They weren't like pinned up in quite the same kind of like intricacies. A lot of it went up into like a bonnet and that like a half ponytail into a large bonnet with like ringlet curls underneath of it. And so the idea was less like up out of your face and protected. It was more like, I want to display the fact that I have the wealth to care for this kind of hair. And then in the 1920s with the flappers, that's when women were like, you know what I'm done with? This bullshit. And that's when women started cutting all of their hair off. And so women went from having hair like down to their waists that they wore in these like really elaborate protective updos to like straight up bob haircuts, which is like weird to think about how shocking that would be. And like, I've watched a lot of old movies where people are like, oh, those flappers, they're so dangerous and crazy and out there. And it's like, what? Why would you feel that way? But then to know, like, you can immediately tell this woman was a flapper. You can immediately tell that this woman has divorced herself from the conventionality of this custom because you can see the bottom of her hair. Like, it's just, that's it. This is the only hair that she has. And so after that, it starts to become in these, like, more involved, ironically, these more involved, like, shorter hairstyles. And it's not until the 70s that women started to wear their hair, like, actually relaxed and natural. And since then, it's like, all bets are off. You can kind of do whatever the fuck you want with your hair. But also a thing that was very popular in the 80s and early 90s for women was getting your hair done in a permanent, sort of for the same reason. It was like a protective hairstyle. It was just done all the time. It kind of indicates at least some level of wealth that you can afford to get your hair done in a permanent also. Also, this is like really specific to white women's hair, and I'm like, I want to acknowledge that for sure. It's because it definitely is. But I was like really interested in the way that women's hair has progressed throughout time, and I just thought this was an interesting opportunity to learn about that because I was just so singularly infuriated by the fact that she took her hair down while she was riding a horse, which again is impossible and you would not have been able to do. I didn't appreciate that her hat fell off, so it wasn't like she was unpinning her hat and then also taking her hair down. Like, girl, not worth it. Also, you're climbing on a train. Keep your hair up. Why wouldn't you want it out of your face?
Yeah.
And not caught in the machinery and stuff, too.
Right, exactly. She's like hanging down at the end. Like, this wouldn't have been as scary of a problem if you had left your hair up, and it would have stayed in place.
I did a quick Google while you were talking. Any guesses the year that the bobby pin was introduced?
Was it before the 20s or after the 20s?
Before the 20s.
1820?
1899.
Holy shit.
I was kind of thinking closer to the end, and I was like, no, I feel like it's a trick.
I mean, apparently hairpins, straight hairpins, go all the way back to like Assyria. So like,
yeah, that's what Victorian women used.
But yeah, the like U-bend with the little kinkies, that was new.
Mm-hmm.
The little kinkies.
The little kinkies, yeah. Stick them in your hair.
They're all into different stuff, and that's okay.
We love them all the same.
Yeah.
Exactly. All valid.
Gives them something to hold on to.
So, Ansel, is this the part where you're going to talk about your experience with the band in Back to the Future Part 3? How did they make the guitars spin? Your bandmates. You
asshole. You're just making a horrible ZZ Top joke. I was like, what are you talking about?
For those of you at home, I have a beard.
It is a majestic beard.
Yeah, I would not say this is a ZZ Top beard.
No. I have tried. I have given it a go to like, okay, let's see how long this beard gets. It stops. It just stops at a point. Like it's
yeah. Mm-hmm.
Which is great. That's a good problem to have.
I mean, that's what happens with hair on your head too. It can really only grow so long, and eventually it just stops. So
yeah, because it's deciduous, right? The longer ones go at a certain period, and so yeah. Respect to folks who have the ZZ Top beards, but I am not among you.
It's a lot of maintenance. That's a lifestyle. I respect it.
Yeah, mad respect.
Mad respect.
Having a well-tended beard is a sign of extreme patience.
Oh yes, absolutely.
Because the number of guys who like get to this like stubbly period and just can't anymore. There's a huge number there that get eliminated because they just can't handle the stubbly period, which isn't that bad. And then to get to a point where it's long enough that it's a beard and not like a stubble gradient, and then to tend it is like it's an enormous pain in the butt. So respect to
absolutely and
beard owners.
Like ZZ Top to do it for decades.
God,
like a really long time. That's a commitment. It's a
whole
looks lifestyle.
The same every time. That's not easy.
No, not at all.
Yeah, that's why I don't have a beard. That's the only reason.
That's the reason.
Yep.
Same. Ben,
I'm impatient. Well, friends, it looks like this is the end of the line.
It looks like we're out of time.
Oh,
for season 1.
Oh, look who did the time pun.
It took the whole season. Here we are.
I mean, wait, hold on, Ansel. I think I'm having some technical difficulties. My notebook, it's blank.
Oh,
do you know what that means?
I think it means we're finished, or that we went back in time and changed it.
I think it means that our future hasn't been written yet. Oh. Like no one's has, and the future
lighter at the computer
is what you make it.
It is a great line, honestly. Like, what a great message, and like I totally understand why I loved these movies so much as a kid, because like they're PG and they really do speak to like appreciate your higher truth. Your future is whatever you want it to be. It's like a really empowering message, especially to young people. So absolutely,
that message is good. To bring it full circle again, it's a message of hope.
Yeah.
We talked about hope in one of our first recording sessions with Meet the Robinsons, right?
Yeah.
So it's fitting to end with this hopeful tale of Back to the Future, because even though we see the light at the end of the tunnel, we're still in the thick of a pandemic right now while we're recording this.
Meet the Robinsons, which you'll get to hear the questionable audio after the new year. That'll be a bonus episode after the new year.
Yeah, that bonus episode is coming.
Yes.
You're welcome, and we're sorry.
You'll get to hear just how good I am at removing airplane noise from recording.
And dogs.
And dogs.
And dogs.
Yeah.
And wind.
A lot of that.
We were outside.
It was the beginning of the pandemic. We made a lot of questionable choices.
It was worth a shot.
Worth a shot. And here we are at the end of the season, recording our last episode, and now here you all are at the end of the season listening to our last episode. I hope you enjoyed it. This was really fun.
Yes, we had a ton of fun doing this. If you enjoyed taking this journey through time with us, let us know.
Yeah.
Tweet us, send us a Western Union letter.
Leave a review. This is a podcast. You can leave a review and say something nice. That would be nice.
Yeah, right. That would be great. Send a letter via courier through time that just sits in the Western Union location for years.
Absolutely. I look forward to
photographs of our graves, please. We're good for that. We don't
need to know that.
I don't need to know that. That's fine. I don't want to be fired from the future notes either. I'm fine with that.
Yeah, especially if I die over $80, of all the things.
Yeah, I mean, it's happened to a lot of people.
Yeah, right. For less money.
For lots less money. And you know what? A lot more money too.
That's very true.
Money's bad.
Money's bad. That's what we've learned. That's what we learned, people. Money's bad. Time travel is good.
If you learn one thing from this series, Money's
it's that time
bad.
isn't real and money is bad.
Oh man, time is not real. So while we get back to that unrealness of time, you can find us on the internet still.
Yeah, you can. You can find me on Instagram at NYDurgency.
On Instagram and Twitter, I'm at bsilverio20.
You can find me on Twitter at Indecisionist and on Instagram at The Indecisionist. Special thanks to April Moralba for our podcast art and to Marlon Longett of Marlon and the Shakes for our amazing theme song. This has been an Indecisionist production.
You can also interact with us, tell us how much you like the show, suggest other time travel media you'd maybe like to hear, or other, not necessarily movie time travel either, that you'd like to hear us interact with. Should we come back for a season 2? We're probably coming back for a season 2, but
tell us so that
let us know. Yeah, exactly. And you can do that using the hashtag #time2party. That's time, the number 2 party.
As Doc Brown said, your future is what you make it, so make it a good one. And to help you do that, you should be excellent to each other.
You should party on, dudes. Spinning everywhere. Bye, everybody.
See ya.